Alright, so 6D is all about symmetry, and we're using the unit circle again, and it's a pain in the bum, and it's really tricky, but you will understand it, alright? And whether that's now after this, or whether that's when you actually start the exercise and have a go at these sort of things, it will click at some point, alright? But symmetry, as the name implies, is all about things are the same, alright? So let's start. We remember that the y-axis was sine. Okay, so if I come up here, then I'm at this value of sine. Everyone agree? Whatever value that is. Right? I'm on the y-axis at that point. There is another point where I'm at exactly the same point. Okay, and believe it or not, this angle here is exactly the same as this angle here. Okay, now here's where it gets real fun. If I track this down and come back, oh, wrong way, right? This value here is the same as that, only it's negative, right? So it's not just symmetrical left and right, it's actually symmetrical up and down as well. So this value, let's say it's 0.5, okay, then this value down here is negative 0.5, right? And the same thing happens if I track that out again and come back. These angles are all the same angle. Alright? The same thing if I draw that unit circle again. That one's a dodgy one. Alright? And we say that we're doing cos this time. If I have my angle and I track that down, alright, and I track that down and have that angle, they're the same. I track it across. Right? Same angle. Alright? Doesn't look like it, but it's exactly the same process. So whether you're doing sine or cos, this symmetry rule applies. Now what impact does that actually have on what's going on? Alright? Mr. Dell's turned off the proxy, that's why that keeps popping up. Now, what does that mean? Alright, and this is where you need to have a thinking cap on. Okay, if we go back and I pull some of the exact values out. So if we pull sine 30, 60, and 45, not in order. So 1/2, root 2 on, no, root 3 on 2, and root 2 on 2. Right? So they're the exact values for sine at these angles. They're also the exact values for any of our symmetrical ones. Okay, so if I do 180 minus 30, what's that? 150. Then sine of 150 is also 1/2. Alright, if I draw a little circle here, another dodgy one, okay, we know that we're chasing angle 30. Okay, and that gives us this value here, which is 1/2. If I track back over here and back down, this angle here I know is 30, and it's still 1/2. So if I actually measure, I'll use a different colour to go all the way around. If I actually measure from there to there, that's 150. So the orange line is 150. Alright, orange line is 150. According to symmetry, I can also tell you that if I come out here 30, back here, that's also 1/2. So what's that angle? What is it?
125, 225.
No, I'm doing 30. You did 45 automatically. I was doing 30.
Oh, 30.
Alright, 210. Alright, and I forgot to put a negative there. It's actually negative 1/2. Okay, so the blue angle is 210. And the sine, the exact value, is negative 1/2 because remember, all sine, cos, nope, tan, cos. Alright, so sine isn't positive down in this quadrant. So it has to be negative 1/2. And then We do one more symmetry movement where we come across and back. We know this angle here is also 30. Okay, so what angle, if I go all the way around to this line, is green? 330. And the exact value is -1/2. Right? So what the exact values table gives you is the exact values between 0 and 90. Okay, it doesn't go outside of 90. So what we need to do is use symmetry to work it out elsewhere. Alright, so there are a couple of things, a couple of ways you can do that. Alright, and I'm going to write them down hopefully as clear as I can. So quadrant 1, use table. Okay, simple as that. Just use the exact values table for quadrant 1. Okay, for quadrant 2, you need to work out 180 minus the angle. Alright, then use table. Okay, and we'll do some practice of this. Quadrant 3, you do 180 plus the angle, then use the table. Alright, and what do you reckon quadrant 4 is? Given the pattern we've got so far. 360 minus the angle, then use table. Alright, so the first step in any of these questions, in my opinion, is you start by working out what quadrant you're in, and then you do one of these 4 things depending on the quadrant. Alright, if you're in quadrant 1, you just use the exact values table as is. If you're in quadrant 2, you need to convert it into what it would be in quadrant 1 and then use the exact values table. Alright, there is one more step to each of these that I haven't put in. Okay, and I'm going to write that in red because it is probably the most important one. That's the same for all of them. And I can't spell it the same in all of them, believe it or not. Alright, just check your sign. Okay, why haven't I got that same step in quadrant 1? Because they're all positive. Okay, if you're doing sine and you're in quadrant 2, make sure you keep it positive. If you're doing cos and you appear in quadrant 2, then you need to be negative. Okay, so you just need to check that sign. That's the last step in each of these. According to the quadrant, you should know which one is positive, which one is negative, all right, or which ones are negative, and then you make sure you've got the right sign on it. So let's do an example together. All right, so find the exact value of each of the following. Let's do cos 135. Cos 135. Ooh, cos 135 degrees. Okay, we need to find the exact value, which means we need our exact values table. All right, so I'm just going to flick back in my book to the exact values table. Now, I need to first work out which quadrant I'm in. Which quadrant is 135 in? It's in the second quadrant, quadrant 2. Okay, and Casey, you just said sine, which is something we need to do in a minute. All right, I would prefer you do that after you find the exact value. If you want to do it before, that's fine, but I'm going to do it after. All right, so if we're in the second quadrant, we need to do 180 minus our angle. So we're going to go 180 minus 135. What's that equal? 45. So the angle we're chasing from our exact values table is cos 45. Okay, if we have a look for cos 45, that is square root 2 on 2.
Why is it cos?
Because that's what the question asked for. Okay, that's my exact value. Now, is it positive or is it negative? If we're cos in quadrant 2, right, if I get this back up just to show you, if we're cos in quadrant 2, am I positive or negative?
Negative.
I'm negative. So there's our answer. Cos 135 is negative square root 2 on 2. Clear as mud? Yeah, it is quite easy, but it takes a little bit of effort to get your head around the unit circle. Alright?